Okay, am I introducing the panel? If so, perhaps we can go along and everyone can just say their name and area very quickly. So I'm Judy Glassman, I'm Head of School of Creative Arts.
Madeline Furness, Crafts Council.
I'm Chris Swan, I'm from Saffron Digital and I'm the production manager there, sort of video editing.
I'm Luke Armitage and I'm Label and Marketing Manager for Metropolis Group.
Hello, I'm Danny Roberts and I work at Universal Music at Decca Records in the A&R department.
I'm Danny Champion and I work for Peer Music Publishing as a synchronization and online manager.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Bevan. I'm a freelance artist and also I'm a trustee for Digswell Arts Trust in Stevenage, Letchworth and Welwyn Garden.
So I think you'll agree we've got a good spread across all the areas of creative arts, creative industries. Each person in a moment or two is going to give 2 to 3 minute sort of pieces of headline advice. And then we'll be opening the floor for questions. And at the end of that, I believe that all the people on the panel are willing to stay for a few more minutes to talk to individuals, to give you contact points and all of that. Does that sound okay? So first of all, you might well ask, well, how am I, an academic, able to give you advice? And so what I would say is that I'm going to start off by giving 2 or 3 minutes of advice. And it's actually based on a study that was done recently of 26,000 graduates from the creative arts and actually how they went about their working lives. So I'm just picking up on that. But just before we go into the detail of that, there's a follow-up event that you're all welcome to attend. And if you look at your seats, that event is on the 1st of June. And that is just for our graduates who have studied in creative arts, or who are interested in the creative arts if you want to come along. And that's being held in the Lindop building at 2 o'clock on that day. And we have all kinds of help coming in to talk to you and to talk particularly about accessing university resources and advice after you complete your studies this year. So the advice I'm giving is very headline in nature, but as I say, it comes from a study, a national study that was done of people that studied in your areas and other similar areas and how they got on in the first 4 years of their career. And so there's a particular sort of characteristic of graduates who are working in creative arts, and that is that they tend to work in a portfolio way, which is that people have income streams, multiple income streams, if you like. They're working across several jobs over periods of time, tends to be project-based, and they tend to be earning money from a variety of sources. So all of these sort of characteristics are things you need to think about how you would manage if you were working in that sort of context. Secondly, people tend to work in small and medium-sized businesses. I think possibly music and the digital area is one where there are larger businesses and larger organisations at work, and maybe we'll hear a bit about that. Certainly Universal, you couldn't get larger than that. But the tendency on average is small to medium-sized businesses. And also, it's a very flexible context, so you have to be taking risks and taking opportunities as they come. And those are the 3 main characteristics that they found in the working lives of graduates. So what are the type of things you can do? I think you need to actively pursue your business skills, taking advice on that. And that's an area that, although it will have appeared in your studies, it won't be something that perhaps you've had much experience of actively using. So you need to become active users and explorers, if you like, of how to use your business skills alongside your creative practice. And I would add to that, you need to think about the audiences and clients that you may work with and how to approach them. And don't forget that there are international audiences now available. It isn't just regional and national. And sometimes when graduates first leave, they're thinking very much about sort of local audiences. So you need to be aspirational in all of that. You need to plan and have a plan that's going to keep you going, perhaps over the first 2 years after you graduate, and that's going to keep yourself motivated. And don't forget that a lot of that may be, and I say this with a little bit of shame, but it may be that some of that is part-time working or even unpaid working that's going to get your foot on a ladder somewhere. So you may need to start small. You do need to be professional in all things. I've sat on external bodies that have selected artists, for example, for commissioned work. You'll be surprised how badly presented things often are, with typos, with poor gluing down of images and so on and so forth. You need to be fully conscious of being completely professional in your presentation. So please think about that. And then, of course, using and putting value and actively cultivating all your links and networks. And there'll be lots of advice about those. But in fact, there is an incredible wave of advice now for people in your areas. And you already ought to, and I assume you've already been using things like the Skillset website, the CC Skills website, the Design Council website, the Crafts Council website, et cetera, that covers all the areas you're working in. But there is a piece of good news that you are more likely, indeed, compared to other careers, to actually have a great deal of career satisfaction in your life. So I hope that that does follow. So the basic headline I think you're going to get from us is to go into the next period of your lives with your eyes open and be active and proactive within that. Thank you. So I'm going to just pass on. If I can try and keep everyone briefly to time and keep you to those headlines, please. And then, of course, answers to questions will follow. So I'm passing on to Madeline Furness now from the Crafts Council.
Thanks, Judy. It's a really brilliant introduction because I can pick up on lots of points. And I'm really pleased that there's quite a few applied arts students here as well, which is great because obviously that's my field. So the Crafts Council is the National Development Agency for Contemporary Crafts, and we work in a number of different ways developing the market and audience for contemporary craft. Judy mentioned thinking internationally. We've just completed Collect, our international gallery fair at the Saatchi Gallery, and the press release went out today, which announced that over the 3 days we took 1.5 million in sales and had 9,000 visitors. So you can see that the market for contemporary craft is growing, and there's certainly an audience there, and so that's a key part of our work. But obviously we have to kind of feed that market with high quality makers who understand how to run a practice, and that's where the projects that myself and my colleagues in the maker development team come in. We also run an exhibitions team, we have a participation and learning team, and we also commission research and reports, including, it's nice that you mentioned the creative graduates, because we commissioned a bolt-on report that was specifically looking at craft graduates to that. So, so that kind of research side is important. Specifically for makers who are here today, who might be thinking about setting up in practice, I'm very much here kind of talking about portfolio practices really, but with a key part of that being yourselves as individual practitioners, and we tend to support single person businesses. You may well work in sort of business to business ways and kind of use your transferable skills and your material skills as well as kind of selling your own work. We run a program for emerging makers. We support makers throughout their careers. Our program for emerging makers is called Hot House, and that's a professional development program. And I can tell you more about that later on.
Yes, I think if we keep this relatively brief.
Sorry, yeah, hi. So I'm Chris. So my background's more sort of digital technology, so I'm not really kind of sure how necessarily relevant sort of the courses are to the kind of stuff that I do. But I think in terms of my advice and just kind of picking up on some stuff that's said, I think agility is a kind of is a really kind of key concept that everyone needs to have to be flexible to the change in any kind of market, whether that's consumer purchasing or how technology evolves. Obviously, in my background, technology evolves almost on a weekly basis. So we have to have the flexibility as a company and as an individual to keep up with that. And often that's outside of office hours, reading up on the latest developments, doing the research, doing the kind of legwork so that I can stay at the top of my game in my company. Part of one of the core aspects of any business is networking, and I think that was touched on. Utilize your contacts as much as you can, because that's where most of your new business will be generated from. It's your existing contacts, your existing supplier that will recommend you onto other companies and onto potential new business. So yeah, I think from my business point of view, that would be my 2 key points: flexibility and networking.
So it's a little bit different for me. I work in music. Traditionally, my company that I work for, Metropolis, is a recording studio and mastering house. Clients going from Queen to Lady Gaga, Rihanna, Black Eyed Peas. And sorry. Traditionally, we have been an ever-expansive company just because of the downfall of the music industry. So the one thing that we've had to have done over the past 10 years is adapt to new technologies, adapt to new business models, and also expand into new fields that we didn't expect to do. Now the business has a creative agency, a production house, TV. They do TV shows. You have 2 record labels that I run, publishing house, management company, etc., etc. So the advice that I would give, following on from the point before, is to utilize your networks. Network. It doesn't matter who the person is. They could be handy for you in 10 years' time. Also, don't be scared to work for free, and don't be scared to try things yourself. So open up little businesses on the side from what you're doing, because if you try them and if it's a failure, at least you won't do that in your current role. So at least you can try things that you're not actually normally doing. So for instance, if you're working on a small project on your current job that you're going to do, and then you own your own company and you're running that one, then you could utilize the experience that you have of the trial and error with what you're doing right now.
Hello, yeah, I'm Danny. I work at Universal Music, Decca Records. So we work with artists like Imelda May, Melody Gardot, Robert Plant. We also work with a lot of classical artists and crossover artists. The one thing I would say is when you leave university, when you finish your studies, obviously it's good to have an end goal, a job that you want to go into, you know, that dream job. It's good to have that, but at the same time, be open to anything, because when I left university, I had that dream job that I wanted, but that was probably along with hundreds of thousands of other people that wanted that job. I wanted to be, you know, working with rock bands at an independent record label, and now I'm working with classical artists, you know, who are selling records worldwide. So I think you really need to be open-minded and apply to anything, and just prove yourself, because networking is very important. But some people don't really like doing that. You know, it doesn't come easily to everybody. If you're not so good at networking, just prove yourself. So work for free, do internships. Because if you do work hard and you don't complain and you work long hours, it will get recognized.
Hi, I'm Danny Champion. I work in the music publishing side of things, so yet another musical person. I won't bore you with the details of music publishing. If you really want to know, then ask somebody else. And I suppose I can't. There's not a lot else I can really say about music. You've already had 2 people talk about it. All I would say, from my experience with working in my role across music, as well as film, TV, and advertising and computer games, is that actually a lot of the people that I work and do business with do it freelance. And don't be afraid of doing something yourself. Okay, you might need to pay the bills and get the job that that doesn't mean anything, that does that, in order to be able to do the freelance stuff. It's quite difficult to take that giant leap to just go, right, I'm not gonna go for a job. I'm actually gonna try and do it myself. But don't be afraid of it, because a lot of people do very, very well out of it, and it's not as difficult as everyone probably would think it is.
Right, I'm Kimberly Bevan. I graduated back in 2004 as an applied media artist, so I'm probably more interested in the 3D. From there, I was awarded a fellowship with Digswell Arts Trust, which is a studio organisation, charity, which is set up for emerging artists to support them in their early years, because that is the point when it's incredibly hard and money is usually incredibly tight. I would really recommend that anyone that is interested in studio come over and have a chat with me, and I've got some flyers on the trust. From there, I moved out and have gone into private studios. All I would say is when I was awarded the fellowship, I was working in a community of about 12 artists in a large old farmhouse in Stevenage. It's a really hard business. You will get many doors slammed in your face and many rejection letters. And at the end of the day, it's going to be your own self-belief and continuing pressure to go on that will give you the opportunity, which will lead to more opportunities that will work out in the end. So I believe really much about pushing it as far as you can and not letting anybody stamp on your dreams.
Thank you very much, everybody. Some good advice there. And I know we've got a mixed panel in terms of everyone's current business, but you have got a lot to say about the first steps in terms of giving broad-based advice to everybody here. So thank you for all of that so far. What I'd like to do now is open it to questions, thoughts, problems, and so on from yourselves. And so this is supposed to be informal, relaxed, and so on. So what are you all thinking about right now? And what's the sort of one question that you want to ask members of the panel? Can we have a roving mic? If perhaps we borrow one of the mics. So I'd like to see some hands going up. You've got a fantastic set of know-how here. What's one piece of question? Somebody start us off. Somebody start us off with a question or a thought. Okay, at the back there, thank you.
Hello?
Do you want to just say your name and what your area of interest is?
Okay. My name's Shanam. I've just graduated from the course here, Music and Entertainment Industry Management.
Excellent, excellent. So maybe you want to hang around afterwards and speak to these three great people.
Yeah.
But go on, what's your question?
Definitely. Like you were saying, I've actually got a couple of side businesses that I do. I've got my own clothing line, and I run my own independent record label as well.
Right.
I've managed to secure like a few deals for myself, like a distribution deal. But I heard one of you talk about publishing. I just wanted to know what's the best way to get into that.
When you say publishing, do you mean publishing music?
Publishing,
Music.
yeah, music
Recorded music, paper music, sheet music?
Recorded music.
Yeah.
Music publishing. Oh, blimey. I suppose the best way of getting into music publishing, if you're looking for a publishing deal, is exactly the same way as you go about doing getting a record deal. The same. It's first off, it's making sure that the quality of the music that you're working with is the top-notch standard. Music publishing is all about the song at the end of the day. It's not about the face of the writer, it's about the quality of the music. And it's just, yeah, I mean, it's networking, it's making the horrible phone calls, it's sending the CDs. Well, not, actually, no, I wouldn't say send the CDs in, because the CDs will end up in a pile on someone's desk and probably end up in the bin. And, you know, that's the way it goes, unfortunately. Not all the time, but there are events as well. There are a lot of trade bodies out there. There's the Music Publishers Association. There's all those guys. They run bid networking events that we all attend. Yeah, don't be afraid of hitting us up on Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. It's just the best way I can think of is get in touch and really, really just hammer it as much as you can, the same way you would do if you were trying to get a distribution deal on your clothing stuff or records or anything, really.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd also, whoa. Hi. I'd also say, a bit of reverb there, like that, soften the voice. Yeah, do your research on the companies, on the publishing companies. I can't see you, sorry. Do your research on the publishing companies as well, because obviously some publishing companies would want to work with the sort of material you're working with, and some wouldn't. I mean, working at a record label, I hate it when I'm contacted by somebody who's got maybe a hip-hop track that they've just finished and they're sending it to me, somebody who works at a classical record label. You know, it's just not going to work. And I think you're burning bridges already there. So make sure you do your research, find out the names of the people that you need to contact directly. You know, put a phone call in, send an email, then put a phone call in, and keep going. Don't bug them to the point where they don't want to speak to you, but just, set up a meeting. Prove to them that you know what you're talking about and that you have something that they want. They can make money out of you.
Actually, that's good advice, I think, for all areas to take on board.
Were you thinking about, in terms of music publishing, working or for your artists?
I'm an artist, but I also manage artists, so trying to secure some kind of publishing for all the songs that I'm working with.
Okay. Well, following on from what Dan said, yeah, send that initial email, and when you're sending that initial email, don't bombard them with too much information. This is my brand new artist, this is my track, this is, have a nice introduction email, take them out for a beer, because I can guarantee you 100% of the music industry loves a meeting at a pub with a beer. We like free stuff. So I say, write a really nice introduction email. It's the same like if you're trying to get reviews on a blog. You don't say, please, can you write about my new artist? It's, maybe you'll like this. Let's chat further. It's just an introduction into it. And then when you get them out into their comfort zone, then you can start pitching for them.
I think that advice also about trying to meet up, whether it's sort of tempting people into the pub or maybe at a networking event. And I mean, I know about Basker, for example, you do all need to get involved with the current networking events. I mean, these are both formal and informal, if you like. So the Crafts Council hosts things, the music profession hosts things, and so on. And then there'll be regional things as well. So everyone needs to get involved with, I would say, at least one professional network that may be sort of soft and informal, and one perhaps more formal kind of network. Just the person at the back there, on your fashion distribution, we'd be interested to talk to you, and we have a commercial person in the school who might be interested. So this evening we've got our fashion show in London for the school, and we do have about 15 major players from industry actually at the show. So maybe you want to put your head in the door a little bit later. That's in London. Okay, next question. Right, Suzanne.
Is that going? Oh, yes. Networking is clearly really important for every single aspect of the creative field. I'd be interested to know if you sort of could give me one top tip on actually how to network from each of you. I think would be really, really helpful. So, for example, if you go to a networking event and you walk into a room and there's lots of people chatting, how do you do it?
Well, should we start with the music people again and then maybe go up and down the... So what would you actually do? You've walked in the room, there's someone to talk to. What do you do?
Be socially aware, assess the situation beforehand. If somebody is in deep conversation, don't saunter up and start promoting your music to them. Softly approach. It's easiest, obviously, if you've got a friend who knows that person or through another contact. And within music, I don't know about the industries that you guys might go and work in, but you're only one or two contacts away from most people.
So it might be indicating how you'll follow up. Just to say, hi, I can see you're busy. I'll be sending you something
I'd really
or whatever
like to have
it
a
is.
chat with you at some point.
Yeah.
But make sure you do something because you'll kick yourself afterwards because you might not see that person again for another year. So.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'd say as well, don't automatically go on the sell as well. The thing that I found as well when I was doing this, and I'm not the greatest of networkers, was that the more I asked them questions to talk about themselves and get information from them, it was a lot easier to get them to talk rather than me kind of going, sell, kind of, I want you to listen to this, I want you to do stuff for me. It was always, give me information about you. It's a lot easier.
Drawing them out on something they're interested in.
Yeah, it's really easy to get people in the music industry talking about themselves.
And then looking for the connections, connect points, yeah?
And quite an important one, don't lie. You'll get found out. So if you go up to someone and you go, yeah, so I work with this artist. Actually, you just cut a track with Jay-Z last week. They go, really? I'm Jay-Z's producer. And so they'll find out if you lie. So just be as truthful as possible, because if you end up working with them, they'll find little holes into your story.
Just one from my point of view. Some of the networking dues I've been to, again, is that sort of softly approach. Don't bombard them with stuff. But at the same time, when you're making the conversation, really steer clear away from controversial subjects where you might actually have a disagreement. You want to keep this person on side because you're trying to do business with them. Don't discuss politics, religion, any kind of subject like that, where I've seen people enter into discussions before and it's literally thinking you're about to destroy any chance of doing business because you've just entered into a ridiculous conversation. So just keep it light, keep it friendly, generally, I mean, I kind of work with a lot of the major studios. It's sort of in LA, sort of back and forth between Hollywood. And generally, the plying with alcohol is generally the way that we do it, where I'm from. And literally, that you can't really go wrong with that.
I just wanted to kind of reiterate the be interested in the person you're speaking to, and particularly because they might not want from you what you think that you're offering. They might want something different. So listen to what they're saying, take the clues from what they're saying, because there might be a whole wealth of different things that you can offer.
Yes. Kim.
Right. I'd say with the arts, anything visual, a lot of it's become very virtual. So a lot of the networking is done in specialist virtual websites. AN, all these kind of websites that you probably already know about, Ideas, Taps, Arts Hub. They're really where you can get some great contacts. Also, because you're not meeting face to face, a lot of people find it a lot easier to have the conversation and a lot, less interrogating with the questions. Also, if you are in a situation in a private view, because that's where artists do generally most of their networking at private views, always open with a compliment in some way and make them smile. So usually if it's female, always say, I love your shoes. You'll be amazing at how many doors that seems to open. And do some other compliment if it's male. So you'll be on a winner.
I'd also just pick up on, there's good advice there, but just to emphasise what I've seen is people who will go repeatedly to networking events. So maybe not very much will happen the first time, but you might be checking it out. How is it structured? Who's doing what? What's the atmosphere there? So, but you may need to go 3, 4, 5 times. To start seeing how to integrate yourself into that. The second piece of advice I'd offer is actually to become a player in the network itself. You'll be surprised how many people don't want to be, the treasurer for an organisation, or they don't want to organise the refreshments or something like that. Now, I'm talking about perhaps the softer sort of networks. But if you say, oh, well, I'm happy to do that with somebody or whatever, it gets you if you can find some sort of role to play, however small, however modest, in either a professional body network or indeed in one of the sort of softer regional networks, it's a very good way of actually mapping the landscape and mapping your position within that landscape. And then you'll know everybody, etc., and good things will follow. I mean, one of my examples that we're involved with is a regional architecture group. So, we're on the panel, we're involved in organising events, and then you get to know everybody that's there. You hear what they're working on. And also, the other thing that Kim's talked about, you want to be careful if you're simply just networking with other practitioners. You need networks where there are people that are commissioning the work. And don't forget the public sector in that, and the importance of things like local authorities and so on within some of the areas that we're working in. Okay, next question. If we're waiting for a question, what's the one thing you're going to do next? In 2 weeks' time, you'll have your grades or whatever it is, you'll have finished. What's the first thing you're all actually going to do to help your career? Come on, guys, this is time to ask. Go on, I'm going to pick people. What's the first thing you're going to do in sort of 3 weeks' time? Everything's finished. Perhaps you've gone back home to the family or whatever. What's the first thing you're going to do? The first practical thing to get yourself going?
Start researching where I would like to send my CV or my portfolio, starting looking for contacts and people. That's what I'm
So
going to do.
how are you going to do that?
Through website first, and we're having now our degree show, then we have the new designers, which is going to be a good thing, getting into contacts. I don't know.
One thing around people who might be either graphic designers, illustrators, craftspeople, artists, is that there's a lot of middlemen now that operate, or middle agencies that operate on the website. So, for example, I know from somebody from photography, there are people that want to publish editions of illustration, editions of photographs and so on. And you'll find that there's middlemen, and it's very cheap to work through somebody, an agent that works through the website. But you do, of course, need to explore what they do and what the deal is quite carefully. So yes, but of course that research, I assume you've already started doing that insofar as you've been looking at organisations that maybe are sympathetic to your work and so on, which was some of the advice that came out of one of the Dannies, I think. Okay, yes, go on.
Looking maybe into galleries that are
Yeah.
appropriate into things I do, so they may be interested into.
Yeah. So let's just take that and turn it into a question. So what's the best way to approach, say, a gallery or somebody online that has that will manage artists' portfolios of work? What would you do in order to approach it? It's a bit like you've done some music, you want to go to a publisher, same sort of problem. How would you approach a gallery or, as I've described them, a sort of online agent? How are you going to get them interested in you and your work?
Yeah. Okay. I think I'd first make CD with like a electronic form of my portfolio with work, I guess, and I don't know.
I mean, in say animation or film, people tend to do a show reel. Let's go and get advice. So, what's a good way to get someone's attention quickly on the quality of what you do, Madeline?
I'm happy to give some advice on approaching galleries because it's something that we advise on quite a lot in the programs that we run. I'd absolutely recommend some of the advice that's already come up of knowing who's who. So do the research on the galleries, know who works there, know who the curators are. Find them on LinkedIn. A lot of people within the professional networks are on LinkedIn, and you can see not just which gallery they might be working at now, but where they've worked before, and follow them because people move around. The sector is quite small, so there's no excuse, I think, for not knowing who's who and really doing that research and actually putting names and faces together. The other tip that I would give is to go one step further from just kind of, you'll all have kind of artists, designers, whoever that you admire and whose work maybe you've kind of been following as a student. And I think students tend to do that a lot. What doesn't tend to happen is kind of following that through to the next step and actually looking at that person's career. And there are lots and lots of tips. It's fantastic now that everyone has a website. Their CV is on the website. You can find people's CVs kind of on different kind of profiling websites like Axis and so on. See what they do. Where did they stock? What galleries do they show their work in? And look back to the start of their career. What shows did they do kind of, after they graduated? And kind of actually delve in and do the research and find out where those galleries are, who else exhibits there, whether your work fits in, and absolutely go and visit them. And I would kind of suggest, in terms of making an approach, the best thing to do is to ask what people prefer and sort of say, I'd be really interested in showing you my work. What would you prefer? Would you like me to send a disc of images? To ask them, yeah.
Okay, we're coming towards the last few minutes, and I think people are hanging around, aren't they, and can talk to individually briefly? Outside, we'll need to move outside. Is there anybody else with a burning question? Because if there isn't, maybe we could just get sort of one sum-up piece of advice along the row again. What's the one thing that you'll leave people with? What I would say, my piece of advice would be perhaps to identify very, very clearly what your next 2 to 3 steps are, because it is easy to get demotivated and to feel a little lost. So have some plan that you're working down to keep you on track, so that you don't get too demotivated in that first period, and do come back for advice and come to our event on the 1st of June. Anyway, passing this along.
Okay, my bit of advice, well, obviously networking's come up a lot, so that's already there. Ask questions, guys. Don't be scared. There are no silly questions. No one's going to, judge you. And like it's been said before, if you're interested and you've done your research and you're genuine, people are quite happy to have a conversation, I think.
Yeah, so again, networking has kind of been the main one. I do think the other one, remain flexible, like what's already been said. Just because your dream job doesn't come up doesn't mean you should shun away from it. Be flexible, be agile, because that's the way the world works these days.
I would say 2 little pieces of advice. Don't be scared of failure and don't give up. Just look at Simon Cowell. He went bankrupt three times before doing the whole American Idol series. He, in fact, went bankrupt on the first series of Pop Stars.
Lived with his mum and dad, didn't he?
Yeah. So don't give up. You're going to get a lot of failures. Use them as learning curves.
Yeah, stay positive. I know somebody who spent almost 2 years trying to get a job in music. You know, it's really tough out there at the moment. Just keep going. I mean, the thing you need to make sure you do is keep that CV ticking over. So, you know, if you do struggle to get a job for a year, you don't have a year where nothing's happened, where you've just sat in your room applying for 10 jobs a day. Make sure you're doing your own things, your own projects. In music, it would be doing your own blogs, going out there, scouting shows, managing bands, things like that. Because then it's on your CV. People see you're still active, you're meeting new people, and you're learning. And experience is so important.
I just wanted to say a little bit more about what, preparing the CVs and the portfolios and stuff. Is that actually don't be afraid, and actually we're all creative in here. Be creative with what you're sending out, with what you're preparing. It's not just physical anymore; it's digital, and you can really go to town with what's there to make what you do and what you've done stand out. Whether it's music and sending a CD out in a different form of case or USB sticks or whatever, to putting a portfolio in a very different way for it to stand out amongst the rest of them that are out there.
Right, I would say read the small print, because at the moment you're going to be coming out into the art world and there are a lot of sharks, be warned. So ask questions. If you don't understand what you're signing, what you're getting into, just keep asking. Also try and create a network of people that are coming from exactly the same point of view as you, so you can bounce ideas off them, and if you have concerns about something, ask their opinion. Okay.
All right, thanks very much, Kim. So has everyone picked up the information about the 1st of June? Can I just ask who's intending to come to this? It'd be a much more detailed event, and you'll be able to spend some time talking to individuals and getting some more detailed sense of planning for the next 2 to 3 months. I think we've had some excellent advice, so can I thank all the panel members? Perhaps we can have a round of applause just to say thank you very much to all our panel members. Hope to keep in touch.